I did that because I want to have the most ridiculous like screen capture for the beginning of the show. So we're on YouTube. I made a terrible face, and hopefully Google will screen cap that as the beginning of the show, because that'd be good. What I'd like to do, Robinson, is send you a link. I know you like that.
I've already done it.
Oh, motherfucker. Here I go trying to be a nice guy. And I'm then going to tweet the Sober Happy Hour and say, we are live now. And put a little link to it. Post. And maybe we can also do a Facebook post. How about that? And then we will bumper music the shit out of it. I'm trying to get better about social media or something. All right, so why did they change everything? Facebook changes too much, and then you can't find anything, and it's like, what the hell?
More and more frequently.
They update the app gets updated every week. There we go. Write something. We are live on YouTube right this very moment. Link. Yeehaw. Publish. Perfect. All right, YouTube. Thank you for your patience. And now to the bumper music. Here we go in 3, 2. Welcome to the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast. I am your host. We are streaming to you live over the internets on youtube.com and all up in your eardrums someday soon via podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever you want to call it. And apparently a baseball team just scored a run and I got a notification, and that's why the music sounded weird for a second. Thank you, iPhone. You can visit us at facebook.com/soberhappyhour. Follow us on Twitter at soberhappyhour. And if you'd like to donate to your friendly neighborhood Sober Happy Hour, look for the hashtag or cashtag SHHRP in the Square Cash app. Shoot us an email, soberhappyhour@gmail.com. But I am here, as always, with my two good friends, Chaz and Robinson. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello, gentlemen.
Yes, we are back. We took last week off because I had to work and I don't know. But we never promised anyone that we would do this consistently. Actually, a few months ago, we decided we were going to do it inconsistently, and that everybody would just have to rely on notifications and such to know if and when we were doing a show. And I heard from a viewer/listener last week that they were watching, or not last week, but the last time we did the show, they were watching and they enjoyed the program, and they missed you, Robinson, after you got frustrated with your internet and logged off. And they were like, where did he go? I said, I have no idea. He just left. But tonight, Robinson is back home in the United States of America, and his audio sounds fantastic. So thank you for your patience while Robinson was in another country. We know sometimes we have some audio trouble there, and we apologize if it hurts your ear holes. We are going to do our best to maintain a level of audio quality, which means that if Robinson's audio sucks and he's back in the Philippines or in Vietnam, we might just block him from the call. We won't tell him. We won't ask him not to participate. We will pretend everything's going smoothly, and then we'll mute him and be like, well, we can't we can't hear you. And then he'll just get mad and walk away.
If it wasn't for the messages that I receive on Facebook, I would never even remember that we're doing a show.
That's how much he loves you, listeners. That is how much he cares. So,
Zero.
Robinson, you are back in the U.S.
I'm working.
How long have you been back?
What, about 3 weeks now? And I've
3
been working
weeks.
my ass off, and I haven't made a fucking penny. Well, I have, but my van got booted by the police. I went to get the boot off. They wanted $3,000.
What?
I didn't even pay that much for the damn thing. But my I guess I got, the coworkers that were using the van were racking up parking tickets.
Oh, Jesus.
Them. And the last thing I said before I left was register the van. But did it happen? No.
Oops.
So I bought another van for $600.
There you go.
Same make model.
These are work vans, right?
Yeah, disposable.
Pretty much. Although you did have a truck once. I believe it was a Mazda. And
several trucks, yeah.
That little blue truck, it was diesel. It was great. I loved it. It was a stick shift, and we drove that thing back and forth to Los Gatos like 500 times.
Yep.
It got like 800 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
It was pretty fantastic. Although it struggled with hills a bit.
Yeah. We lost it in Bakersfield, wasn't it?
I have no idea. Chaz, how about you? How was your week?
It was pretty uneventful. Just boring. But next week I will be out of town. I will be in Boston.
Boston?
Yep.
Cool. What are you doing there?
It is the Alternatives Conference, and I am more than happy to be out the hell of work.
So it's not work related?
Nope. This is 100% self-paid, and I am doing it on my own time.
Cool. Right on. I've never been to Boston.
No, this will be my second time.
Really? My mom loves Boston. She visits for work sometimes, and every time she goes, she always calls me or writes me and says, "You would love Boston." I don't know when my mom turned into a weird old lady voice, but I don't know. She's getting older. Might be accurate. I don't know. So I wanted to talk. So our new-ish format dictates that we keep it short. We got that feedback. Thank you for the feedback, listeners. And keep it short, have multiple topics, and then get the fuck out of here. Bumper music in, bumper music out. Short, sweet, boom, boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. So let's kick this shit off here. So Robinson, I always start. I don't want to start this time. So Robinson's going to talk about a topic that we've talked about a few times because now he has something else he wants to share. So Robinson, what are we talking about?
Actually, I don't have anything more to share other than just like I'm learning more and more about the sex culture in the Philippines. And what closer to the mic? Okay, so their culture is what we would consider to be a sex addiction. There you go. Yeah.
I realized what it looked like I was doing. I'm like,
so, and we have to stop and ask ourselves, is it addiction or is it just our culture that calls it addiction?
Sure.
And like, different things. Like I lived in Germany for 3 years, and in Germany, the street workers had a tool belt. The street workers who were cleaning the streets, they're sweeping. And they have a tool for scraping gum and things like that, and like little liquids for spraying for paint removal and this and that. And on the tool belt, they have a little pocket, a little holder for their beer.
Really?
They drink beer all day, all of them, every day, because it's so ingrained into their culture. They drink more beer than they drink water.
Yeah.
We consider that alcoholism.
Like this.
Yeah.
But full of beer.
Yeah. That's normal. And when a baby is weaning off of the nipple of its mother and it's time to get on a bottle of milk, they don't always give it milk all the time. Sometimes they give it beer with raspberry syrup. It helps the baby relax and sleep better. And
Sure.
in the U.S., in our culture, we are just like, what the fuck? You giving an infant beer? And in Germany, it's like, well, yes, of course, it's beer.
Right.
It's nutrients.
Sure.
They don't see it as an alcoholic beverage. They see it as a nutrient. And so it's like, we really have to like think about why we consider the things that we consider an addiction or a problem.
And I think industry, money, power, influence has a lot to do with it. I remember the big to-do a couple of years ago. President of the United States visits South America, and it was a big deal that part of the way that the people from, I don't think they were in Colombia, but somewhere in that region, the Andes Mountains area, part of the way that they combat altitude sickness is with a particular concoction, if you will, of coca leaves, the same leaves that they use to make cocaine. And they chew it and they kind of keep it in their mouth, and kind of like a cow chews cud, and it keeps them from getting altitude sickness, and it makes your mouth kind of numb or whatever. But you're certainly not the same as, doing a line of coke. And it was like newsworthy Chiron, president uses coca leaves in Ecuador, and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, like this is something so normal and natural for these people, and yet over here we make it a big deal, just like the baby drinking raspberry flavored beer in Germany.
Okay, what the heck is a Chiron? This is like the second time I've heard it like this week.
The lower thirds on the bottom of the screen that says breaking news. North Korea nukes Guam. Breaking news. See, now that would be a reasonable Chiron. But Kim Kardashian slips on banana peel. News at 11, not a reasonable Chiron. But would be one in the US, guaranteed. Guaranteed. So I like what you're saying, because I think it's so true. I think that it is in the eye of the beholder, and in this case, in the mind of the culture, that kind of makes up, like, and I thought you were going to go down a slightly different path when you brought up Germany, because in Germany, the sex culture is very different than in China, Vietnam, or the United States, or places that we think of might be a little bit on the prude side. In the US, yes, believe it or not, hello listeners from the United States, the US is known as being a little prude. Except people always associate like the pornography industry with the United States as being like, oh my God, this big, terrible, awful thing. But the US as a whole is pretty prude when it comes to sex. I mean, we don't show skin on TV. It's a big deal when Janet Jackson's nipple shows at the Super Bowl for, 0.28 seconds. And but in Europe, topless women are a normal everyday sight. And in Germany specifically, we talk about sex addiction. Germans are some kinky motherfuckers.
Yeah, dirty kinky.
Right. like unclean, or just like
unsanitary.
No, like unsanitary. I think about 90% of the scat videos come from Germany.
Yeah, understood. So that, though, like just a sex culture in general in the Netherlands or Germany, like those are cultures that are completely okay with sexuality. In the United States, it's very it's hush hush. You still, ooh, I have to have private browsing on my internet browser if I'm gonna have an account to a porno website. It has to be discreet billing, and if you order a subscription to Hustler magazine, it comes in discreet packaging, because God forbid anybody knows that you are some sort of sick, weird fucking pervert. When in reality, in Germany, like, you can buy a porno magazine at the local grocery store, or you'll see 13-year-old kids kind of thumbing through it like, ooh, look at what I'm doing. But it's not this terrible, awful, off limits thing. Like the concept of abstinence only sex education in most of these other developed countries would be like unheard of.
Right.
Worst idea ever.
So in the Philippines, everybody's fucking all the time. There's no like there's no shame about it. It's like there's no shame between like boys, girls, lady boys, old, young. It's like it's a free for all
In the Philippines.
in the Philippines.
How about in other?
It's very, very discreet. It's just as active, but nobody ever talks about it.
Ah,
And I'm learning this through one person who is very active in her town, which is like a small town, but she goes to a lot of group sex events like every day.
what?
Every day there's like something to do. There's like she knows all the places to go to.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of activity, but nobody ever talks about it.
But what about comparing that to the same kind of culture in Northern California? More so, less so?
Northern California is kind of an exception to the US.
Agreed.
California in general is an exception. In fact, here's a weird thing. You know, kink.com had to move to Nevada because California passed a law saying there could be no porn penetration without a condom. And they just were like, we're not going to use condoms.
They tried to pass that back in the early 2000s as well. I actually think they did pass it in the early 2000s. I'm not sure how they got around it.
Though, but just beginning of 2017, it's forced, and they just moved. They moved their filming department.
Right. And part of the reason why, I mean, there is some justification that at least to me made some sense, which was all of a sudden out of nowhere, like HIV infections among adult film industry workers just like skyrocketed out of nowhere, and everybody got really scared and they didn't understand what was going on. So of course, pass a law, put regulations on an industry. Unfortunately, you knee-jerk reaction to something that looks kind of scary. Sometimes you'll take that concept of, big government, small government, and it does go too far. Like that is, in my opinion, I have no concerns with most common sense regulation on things, but to just blanket pass a law that affects and negatively impacts an entire industry, an industry that is a multi-billion-dollar industry, also an industry that has resulted in many very positive innovations around technology and cybersecurity. I think that stifles innovation. That's not a good thing. But they moved to Nevada. Good for them. So what I wanted to talk about tonight was something kind of interesting. So for those that know me and know me well, I have an idea of sorts, and I'm not going to share any details about this idea because it is an idea that I will drop on the world at some point in the future. But I have an idea for a new YouTube channel, like a full-blown video produced YouTube channel, not like this YouTube channel that's just the means of recording this show, so it's a live stream of what we do every couple of weeks, but an actual channel with like produced content. And that content is going to be around the concept of personal protection, with the inclusion of firearms, guns, and so I've been doing a lot of research about the topic, like a lot of research about the topic for the last month or two. And I ran into something really interesting that kind of found this intersection of what we're doing and what this other project is going to be about. And it's the concept of somebody who has a desire to protect themselves in their home by means of owning a firearm, and finds out that they cannot because at some point in their past they got treatment, inpatient, outpatient, for drug addiction, which their health insurance or the state classified as mental health, as them seeking mental health treatment. And because of that, if you go to a gun store and you're trying to legally purchase a firearm, also, what a lot of people don't know, if you go to a gun show and you're trying to legally purchase a firearm, you have to fill out a federal form and they run an instant background check. So there's a lot of misconception around what it looks like to actually purchase a firearm, and that's the first one. People think that they can go to a gun show, like at the convention center or whatever, and that you can just walk in there, any schmo off the street with $500 can just go buy a gun. Not true. You have to fill out a very specific government form, and all of the vendors have a computer in which they submit your information to a federal database that then pulls up an instant background check, and you either get approved or you get declined. Part of that background check is, have you been treated for mental illness? And if it comes up as you were dishonorably discharged from the military, no gun. Mental illness, no gun. Felony, no gun. And the vendor will simply tell you, hey, you didn't pass a background check. Sorry, you can't buy this gun. Now, obviously, there is a small loophole there. Hey, guy standing next to me, will you buy this gun? And then give it to me. Because there is no law against the personal sale of a firearm. Chaz, if you wanted to sell me a gun, you do not have to perform a background check on me. So if I was there and the guy next to me was buying a gun already and said, hey, just kidding, let me buy 2 guns. Hey, I'll give you $100. Not that this happens, but that is a loophole that does exist.
Doesn't happen either.
It may, who knows, right? But I thought it was really interesting that, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion. If someone has been treated for a, quote, mental illness, let's say bipolar disorder, let's say, say it again. Depression. Yeah. I take Zoloft or Prozac or whatever. Should that person be allowed or not be allowed to legally purchase a firearm? Now, I don't know from, hold on, because I don't know. This isn't a conversation that I've had with either of you, so I don't know what either of your opinions are of gun ownership in your life, period. So whatever you say, well, I won't associate that back to your feelings about it. So what do you think?
Should I own a gun?
Should you own a gun?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have no problem with you owning a gun. I don't think.
Okay, so then your answer to people with bipolar disorder owning a firearm is yes.
Right. My answer is my answer is complicated because I know you and I've known you for a long time. And I don't think that you would be a threat to yourself or to others because you are treated and are taking medication that keep you from going cuckoo bananas and ending up in the booby hatch. Now, other people that I do not know, I can only use my own life as an example here, but when a close family member of mine was in the midst of an unmedicated stint of bipolar disorder where she was truly cuckoo bananas, would I like her to have been able to own a firearm? Abso-fucking-lutely not. So there's a weirdness there because all you, Chaz, might have to do to kind of lose your grasp on your sanity could be to stop taking your medication, in which case you legally own this firearm and you decide you want to off yourself or start, shooting others.
I've got a half a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I've also got a full bottle of Tylenol PM. If I wanted to off myself right now, I have a much easier, much less painful way of doing it.
I think that people should take a more strict test than the federal guns, before they're allowed to have babies.
Yeah. So you think it should be easier to buy a gun than it should be to have a child?
Yes, I think there should be a law passed that you need to pass certain mental stabilities tests to be able to reproduce.
I think that's a really interesting point. And the truth of it is, if you think about, you know, deadly weapons, most of us in this show right now, including our guest behind me, we utilize a deadly weapon every single day.
A car.
A car.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened today in
I'm pretty
Virginia?
sure people died.
Three
Oh, yeah,
people were
that.
killed by a fucking crazy person who decided to mow down a bunch of racists
You know,
who were
and that's getting
protesting on the
more and
street.
more common, is this whole driving cars into people shit.
Yes, it's getting more and more common because people are realizing that I don't have to go buy an AR-15 or
And hey, it's a great getaway tool as well.
I'm already in the getaway car. Last time I checked, you couldn't drive a shotgun.
The getaway weapon.
It's a getaway. Yeah, who's going to drive the getaway weapon? I will. So it is an interesting kind of a hypocrisy, right? Like you can't be, you know, mentally unstable and have been treated, but that's the best part. Okay, that's the part that just irks my nerves. If you've never been treated for your mental issues, then you would pass the background check and you would be the guy that walked into the Aurora, Illinois movie theater and with a 100-round magazine and start shooting people. That guy was fucking nuts and he should have been treated. And if he had been treated, he probably wouldn't have done what he did, but he wasn't treated. So he didn't raise any red flags. So he legally bought those weapons. So I think it's a glaring hole. I think it's honestly there. I guarantee you it is 2017. If we wanted to create a little 50 question, you know, multiple choice quiz to give people before they wanted to buy a gun, and the questions were clever enough that they could easily trick somebody into answering honestly to the point where they would not be allowed to buy a gun because you realize that they are unstable. They talk about these like psychopath tests and stuff all the time. I don't know how real they are, but I'm sure you could come up with some sort of a test that somebody could take. They fill out the bubbles and then they put it in the machine and the machine says, sorry, you failed. And because the questions would be, have you ever considered, you know, have you ever considered doing this? Have you ever done that? Have you ever had these kinds of thoughts? And unless you were really, really smart and could trick that test, you fail.
You really, really smart is just answering no to everything.
No, but come on, the test would be smarter than that.
They don't have that smart of a test.
They do. I would make it. I'm a really smart guy.
It could be made, yes.
It could be made. Robinson, do you agree a test like that could be made?
I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you see these fucking tests on the Facebook and shit that are cleverly worded.
Some of the questions are repeated.
Yeah.
But different way of saying the same thing to see if the answers are consistent.
There you go. Inconsistent answers. Red flag.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they basically just have someone's Jewish mother come out and meet you to just make the final decision because they're always the best judge of character.
But what if you already own a gun? You have a gun, you're registered, and then you become a drug addict or you become ill, and then you get recovered, and then you still own that gun and it's still registered in your name.
You're absolutely right. And that happens all the time.
They don't take it away, right?
So they can. So let's say you get nailed with a felony. Okay. And I have a friend who was active military, been deployed multiple times, and he went kind of crazy. He had PTSD. He had some issues. He went to seek treatment. They determined, holy shit, you have very severe PTSD. And they came to his house and they took his guns. How do they know if they got all of them? I don't know. In Arizona, you don't have to register a gun. There's no registration. You can just have it.
Owning a gun in the Philippines is a crime punishable by death.
What about a BB gun?
I don't know.
Fair.
But they have a very high, like their murder rate is like 8 times higher than the U.S.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even though they've banned guns.
Yeah. Well, the police are killing everyone. But they're gangsters too.
Do the police carry guns in the Philippines?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They just carry fully automatic. Like we're talking about the security guard in front of 7-Eleven.
Has a fully auto rifle.
Yeah. Like they're
Wow.
And then the pizza shop next door, the guy's got a double barrel shotgun. It's like every security guard.
Interesting.
A big fucking crazy. And there's shootouts all the time.
Because most security guards in the U.S. don't carry weapons. They have to be police.
Most of the country, the Philippines, is like Oakland in the 70s.
The Wild West.
It is the Wild West.
That's crazy. So I brought up this topic because it sounds like, there is no consensus, and I think there's not going to be consensus because there's too many variables. Do I think Chaz should be able to own a gun? Yeah, absolutely. I know Chaz. He's not a threat. But do I think that somebody else who's been treated and then is better and then falls off and then gets better, like, who knows, right? Because like you said, like, anybody can have a mental break. It doesn't mean, like, you don't have to be bipolar to have a psychotic episode. Stress can do it. This Australian family, like last year, that disappeared for a week and, left their house with all their credit cards and passports behind and just like disappeared because the parents thought that they were being, chased by the mob and took their adult kids with them. And then nobody had heard from them for a week. And then they show back up one day, the cops find them, they take them home and they're like, yeah, we were just confused. We were under a lot of stress. And so we don't really know what happened and we don't want to talk about it. It's like, okay, those were like normal people, no history of mental illness, who just fell off their rockers, and that can happen to anybody. So I think what it really comes down to is you don't limit certain types of guns. You don't limit the number of rounds you can put in a magazine. You just have better fucking healthcare for people to get treatment for mental health problems.
Yeah, that'll help.
Or legalize suicide.
Legalize suicide. Legalize homicide. No, that'd be bad. Don't legalize that.
Yeah.
But
legalizing suicide, if somebody wants to take themselves out, they can call their doctor and say, I'm ready to go. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
And the doctor can come over and give him an injection. Okay.
And the doctor might have to give him another one of those fancy Scantron tests to determine if they really want to go or not.
There you go.
I think we could honestly fix the world with Scantron tests. Now, the more I think about it.
I had a vasectomy.
Yes.
And
I didn't know that.
When I went to get it, I asked the doctor, can you give me a vasectomy? She said, yeah, come on in. No problem. I like right then and there. But when...
Are you sure this wasn't a veterinarian office?
Well, I was paying cash. When Chloe went in to get her
tubal ligation,
tubal ligation, they denied her for like 6 months
because she was too young.
No, because why would a woman want to do that? There's something wrong with you. You're going to change your mind later. And she's just like kept insisting, like constantly going back to the doctor saying, will you please cut this shit out of me?
What's funny? Go ahead.
I think it was more than 6 months, probably 2 years.
What's interesting about that is, and I'm going to tell a personal story here because I'm an open book. Jackson decided he wanted to come out a month early. And we were at the hospital and we figured these were just contractions like we'd been to the hospital 6 other times for. And nurse comes in and says, hey, how'd you like to have a baby tonight? And Rachel will never let me live it down. She tells me that the look on my face was absolutely priceless because I thought I had another 4 weeks or so to have to come to terms with the fact that there was a baby going to come out, that was going to be my responsibility. So the nurse comes in and says, hey, we're having a baby. I shit myself a little bit. And then the doctor shows up because the motherfucker's on vacation. He thinks he also has a month before we have to have this baby. But he shows up and then asks us a question. We're in the delivery room. She's going to have a C-section, so we weren't in the operating room yet, but we were in essentially the pre-op area, and says, hey, I don't normally ask couples who are in labor, but while I'm in there doing this C-section, considering how complicated this pregnancy was, considering how like brutal it was on mom and potentially on baby, and like just all the complications. 2 pregnancies in a row, super complicated. He said, would you like me to perform a tubal ligation while we have you, knocked out and cut open? And we thought about it, and we said, two kids is good. Like we're done. And so he did. And I'll never forget it, because apparently cauterizing fallopian tubes smells an awful lot like cooking bacon. But that's another story altogether. And guess what? Guess what happened a couple years later, Robinson?
She got pregnant again?
Fuck no. I talk about wanting to kill yourself. She changed her mind. And all of a sudden, she's talking about reversing the procedure and wanting to have another kid and what the fuck ever. Obviously, I talked her out of it. Like, that was not a good decision. But she sure as shit changed her mind, and she got real serious about the research and how much it would cost to reverse this procedure and everything else, because that's just how human beings work. How did you end up with so many cats, Robinson? Because you love cats. I'm done with cats. No more cats. But then you see another kitten, you're like, okay, this kitten needs a home. You can live with me too. That's just human nature. So a woman in her mid-20s has a kid and decides to eradicate childbearing from her internal organs. And then, of course, you have second thoughts and you have doubts and you have regrets and you say, I really wish I hadn't done that. So they don't want to have to reverse a bunch of these surgeries, but they basically say that if you're under the age of 30, they typically will deny your request to do a tubal ligation. But it's like, fuck you, doctor. Like, who the fuck are you to deny my request to make sure I don't get pregnant? Asshole.
Just call me. I'll do it for you.
Perfect. Can you do it vaginally?
I've been doing research on testicle
Removal. You just tie a rubber band around that shit like they do on goats.
You can do that for a baby, but I don't think an adult would be able to stand it.
A eunuch.
A unique.
I watched the other day. They do that.
I'll tell you why.
Tell me why.
Because of the cost of lady boys that when a man wants to become a woman, he has to take so much estrogen to counteract all the testosterone. Sure. That why not just get rid of the testosterone in the first place?
Yeah.
If a person is born a hermaphrodite, or not a hermaphrodite, but with no no hormonal causing organs to determine their sex, then they will grow up naturally looking like a woman. So if somebody wants to be a woman,
soft features.
Get rid of the thing that makes you a man, and you will just naturally become a woman.
Get rid of the testicles.
Get rid of them, yeah.
They have chemical castration too.
That's not the same.
Nope.
Getting an erection.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That sounds awful. Well, I think what we ended up talking about tonight was, at what point does healthcare kind of play a role in everything? It's amazing. And you have, I had this crazy lady at work tonight who was just off her rocker because she thought her iPhone was broken. And she kept telling me, like, I am a clinician and I save people. And this was her reason for, needing to bump a bunch of other people off of a waiting list. And I kind of told her, so I promise you, people practicing medicine, whatever it is that you do, they did it for thousands of years without iPhones. You'll be okay for a day. I promise. Have your calls forwarded to your landline. You're 60 years old. I know you still have a landline. And we have... So when it comes to like my topic and it comes to your topic tonight, Robinson, I think that what's interesting is, mental health can definitely play a role in somebody who has been diagnosed with sex addiction. Back in the day, they used to call them nymphomaniacs, right? That's a very clinical word for somebody who has some kind of an obsession with sex and orgasms or whatever, and then
Sperm addiction.
a semen addict, I guess. But you also have the mental health side of, if somebody gets treatment, to me it's very similar to kind of the entire premise of this show, the stigma that exists around drug addicts in recovery. And they still get treated like less than. They still get treated like second, third, fourth class citizens. They still get treated like criminals and thieves and liars, when somebody could be sober for 20 years. But just because somebody finds out that they used to struggle with, alcoholism or drug addiction, they still get treated like they're pieces of shit.
Yes, Chloe has, like, she told her doctor back when she was like 20 or 22 or something that she had done cocaine.
Okay.
And the doctor put it in her file. And this day, every time she goes to a doctor, the first thing they ask her is, how's your cocaine addiction? And she's just like, what the fuck? I've never had a cocaine addiction. I tried it once when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I told my doctor, and now it's stuck in her file forever.
Yep. And it will be forever. Yeah. Until the North Koreans send an EMP and take out our infrastructure.
Or until we take out theirs. Actually, they might not be around too much longer.
That isn't funny. And it's only not funny because it's true.
I have a friend, he's probably watching this show right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say any names or anything, but there are nuclear subs kind of stationing themselves around certain parts.
This is no joke, man. Like, there's some crazy shit going on right now. And, all they got to do, they throw one little baby nuke somewhere in the middle of the country. And I tell you right now, I've been saying it for a long time, Yellowstone supervolcano, that fucker's going up in flames. And that's it. Lights out. Good night. This fucking solar eclipse everybody's freaking out about right now. Like, I don't know if the aliens are coming. I don't know if Planet X Nibiru is on its way, but there's just a lot of weird shit going on right now. And I don't know. It's kind of scary.
And as much as the world would like to see North Korea disappear, there will be millions of unfortunate casualties. People that they're just like the people, as far as I'm concerned, the people that live there, the citizens, are prisoners.
Oh, for sure.
And they're all going to get nuked as well.
I hope not.
Casualties of war.
I hope not.
How can you can't like drop a nuke and say, oh, we only want to hit this building. It's going to hit.
No. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. Chaz,
wake up.
Are you afraid of North Korea?
Nah, just bored and shit. Nah, it's just I'm sick of everything going on right now. It's just I have like the last thing I want to do is talk about it.
Well, all I can say is welcome. We all fucking warned you. Everybody on this show, we warned you last year. Nobody listened. And now we're in the shit. Which is why, once again, people are collecting weapons and ammunition and bottles of water and, toilet paper to wipe their ass because they think the world's going to end. But I'll tell you right now, every 10 years or so, the crazies think the world is going to end, and it hasn't yet. So I'm gonna say we're going to be all right. And I will share when the time comes. I will share because I don't want to put any deadlines on myself, because every time I do that, I don't make the deadlines. But the plan to start this new YouTube channel, the plans are in the works. I'm excited about it. I think it'll be something totally interesting. It will have absolutely nothing to do with what we talk about on this show. It will be completely its own thing, totally separate. And short little video clips and things like that, some guests and things. And I think it'll be interesting. So stay tuned for that. We don't ever know when we will be back, but we will be back. Robinson, very happy with your audio this evening. I'm sure that our listeners are grateful. Thank you for that. Mr. Chaz, always a pleasure. And this has been the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to shoot us an email, soberhappyhour@gmail.com. Give us a like over on Facebook, facebook.com/soberhappyhour. Follow us on Twitter @soberhappyhour. And if you are watching this video, if you know anyone that might be interested in the weird and wacky crazy shit that we talk about on this show, share it, hit the like button, subscribe at the bottom, and if you hit the little bell, bing, right over on the side, you will be notified when we go live. Since we don't have a consistent schedule, the only way to know when we go live is by hitting the bell over on the side of the YouTube. And if you do that, as soon as we hit that button and we go live, you're going to get a notification and you'll be able to watch in real time and interact with us via the chat feature, which we would all very much enjoy. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Always an interesting conversation. Thank you, Chaz. Thank you, Robinson. I am your host, and this has been the Sober Happy Hour radio broadcast. If you or yours is considering getting sober, I highly recommend it. Good night.
Good night.
All right. I want to give a quick shout out to my 3 girls cafe, Jen, Lynn, and Ha. I hope you're watching the show.